Hey everybody, welcome to Pale in Comparison, a proud member of the Doof Network. In this podcast, my sister uses her knowledge of the Otherverse to take a look at Pact, Wildbow's least appreciated work, and I try to not give away any spoilers. I'm Jenny, and Malia convinced me to read Worm.
I'm Malia, and Jenny convinced me to read everything else. This episode, we are covering Histories, Arc 5. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to issue a spoiler warning. This podcast is filled with pale spoilers. If you don't know whether Verona's hand ever fully heals and don't want us to tell you, stop now, read Pale, and come back to this podcast. As for Pact, there will be full spoilers through the chapter we are covering.
Happy New Year, guys!
Woo! Woo!
All right. I am riddled with allergies. And
Yay.
I forced Malia to start recording this all over again because I have freaking allergies. And for some reason, tea is helping. And it probably is mental, but I feel like I need tea to get through this recording. So that is what we were doing. And as it is a new year, we have been notified through the Discord that some of you don't think that Wildbow's least appreciated work is very accurate. And we aim to please. And since it is a new year, we have decided to hold a vote on the new thing that I will be saying from now on. At least this year, if not forever. we have a few things that some people have suggested that we're going to put to a vote on Discord and Twitter, and we're basically gonna just add those up. So, I mean, you probably should just pick one of those places to vote. But, like, it's your moral compass, so if you want to vote twice, I mean, we won't know. Like, if you really, 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 have a thing that you like.
Before we read them off, or before Jen reads them off, I just wanted to say that this is to explain why people think it's not the least appreciated. This is somewhat of a call out to Alexandra. Pact, along with Worm, has 2 whole podcasts dedicated to it. Whereas Twig doesn't have any, which is why some people were like, maybe it's not the least appreciated.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like people are trying to get the Twig one off. Like,
oh, totally. This is a friendly jab at Alexandra to get them to do it. If they ever have the time and the mental capacity and the co-host with the same things.
Yes.
Because I want to read Twig, but also I want a podcast.
I do too. I've read a small snippet of it, and as I'm sure y'all know, maybe we'll do a podcast ourselves someday. Woo! Who knows? But
yeah, and then we'd have to. Well, yeah.
Yes. Well, at the very least, we know we sure as heck appreciate Pact, so maybe it's not the least appreciated anymore. So I'm going to read out. We have 6 things here that we're going to have people vote on. If someone feels really, really strongly about another suggestion, you can comment. I can't promise we're going to see it in time to actually put it on the vote. But if you really want to, go for it. That's fine. But for now, here are 6 options. Let me see. Wildbow's least chill work. The only Wildbow web serial shorter than the Bible. Wildbow's most reflective work. Wildbow's least longest work. Wildbow's least unlawful work. And last but not least, Wildbow's most ornithological work.
All of these options are very lovely and very apt for their own wonderful ways. It's also been pointed out that the Pact is actually longer than the Protestant Bible, but as this is a proud Catholic podcast, we don't have to worry about that.
We don't care about that. Suck it, Protestant Bible. I probably shouldn't say that. In a nice Catholic way. Yeah.
How dare you not have Tobit and Magby's 1 and 2.
Yeah. So maybe you guys should think about that. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have to take the Protestant Bible into account. We just have to take the Catholic Bible into account. So that's what we're going to do. So
Indeed.
It stands. I do think that one's funny. I mean, keep in mind, definitely you could vote for which one you think sounds the best, or if you have a mean spirit in you, you can vote for the one you think is going to be the most difficult for me to say. um, you know, and I'm sure I'll get used to it eventually. I'm probably going to trip up and say least appreciated a few times more, just like how I'm sure most of us are going to keep writing 2021 on documents for a little bit. Because that's just how it is. It's a new year, new stuff. Got to get used to it.
It's time for changes.
It's time for change. That's right. So, those are our options. If you want to pick something else, feel free to comment. But otherwise, as we said, we're going to put this up for vote on Discord and Twitter. And otherwise, if you're on Reddit and not on Discord or Twitter,
just go there.
There's probably a way to do polls.
Nope.
But I don't know if
just go. It's not that hard. We'll try to put a link or something.
Yeah, we'll do something. Or just comment something. That's fine.
We're probably not going to see.
I mean,
Jenny's trying to make this harder for ourselves.
You're right. I mean, I'm trying to act like we're going to look into all this stuff, but yeah, we're going to, I mean, I don't know. You just do what you feel is right for you, and maybe we'll see it.
Indeed.
Maybe we won't. All right. On to the chapter. This chapter summary, basically we get a look into Fell's backstory and family history and kind of figure out why he's so tied in with Conquest. So, Malia, what did you think of this chapter?
I was very excited. Interludes are always fun, and I really, really love Fell. And I'm really excited to see what happens with him and Conquest and the whole thing. At first I was very confused because I was like, who is Joseph? Why are we in the South? Which I will get into.
Yeah.
But I think this counts as a correct prediction in terms of who the interlude would be, even though I said like 5 people.
I mean, I think it counts. Well, I think it counts.
Okay.
You could have picked like all wrong people for the interlude.
Right. And one of the points of view in the interlude was correct. That's one of the ones I said. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say, I don't remember exactly what your prediction was if you just said like that you were predicting like a bunch of things, or if you said this or this or this. Because I'm like, it could be a partial prediction correct, or we could just say full prediction correct and just cherry pick it. You gotta,
I'll put a caveat in the spreadsheet.
Okay. I'm glad you've been starting to update stuff, but like, you probably should. I mean, I don't know. It might be easier for you to, at least when we're done with these, just like note it down real quick in it. So at least like you're kind of up to date with now, because then that way it's like less work to have to go back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. But I try to, every once in a while, I just make a random prediction in like the middle of a episode, and I don't really remember those, which is part of why I wanted to listen back to them. But
that's a good point.
I might do that.
Well, whatever you think is going to work easiest for you. Which, yeah. It's going to be a pain in the butt. I guess I could try to help you with that at some point, but
yeah, it's actually been kind of helpful listening back to old chapters, because I forgot that for instance, Conquest used to be a man, which is something we learned in like arc 4. But like listening back through old chapters, I like was like, oh, that's weird, cool. I wonder if I will learn about that. Probably not. And I'm like, hey, we're learning about it, and I never would have remembered because it's been months. So
it's
that's
been
fun.
a long time. That's true. Oh, perfect. That's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. I didn't really write long summaries for these guys. I'm not gonna lie. I pretty much just put the names of the people. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna read the names and then we'll go into it. So we start with Joseph.
Yeah, so I was really excited to read this chapter, and I was going and I was like, what the fuck? And I texted Jenny like 2 paragraphs in. I was like, who the fuck is Joseph?
I was like,
not
you're gonna just
because I wanted her to respond, just because I was like, what is going on? I love when Wild Bow, I have this like, really weird sensation every time I start an interlude where I don't know who that person is. I'm always like, oh, who is this? I don't give a fuck. Like, literally, always, I'm like, I don't care. Why am I reading this? And
Really
within,
interesting.
yeah, I like never. I'm always like, oh, this is annoying. Even though I remember that every single time within 10 paragraphs, I'm like completely and totally invested in this person and their whole life. But but every single time it's like, oh, some rando, I'm just like, fuck, like I don't care what's happening with you. I don't know who you are. I don't care. So I had that experience.
It's really
I always
interesting
do.
because I feel like that's the opposite of me.
Really?
That's really interesting. Yeah. Like, I mean, it depends on what happened the last chapter of whatever I'm reading, I guess, because if I'm really like invested in what's going on in the main story, I might be like, dang it, I really wanted to keep going into that. But like most of the time I am like, oh fuck, I wonder how this person's gonna relate to like, our current stuff going on. And I feel like every time it starts off with somebody I don't know like that, it just seems like but it does a really good job at just like tying it in super well and just making it be like a really good like oh shit moment, like make it's like really fucking juicy, like
intellectually I know that, and going in I'm always like, oh, he's gonna tie this in and it's gonna be great. It's just emotionally I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like Basil, I remember being like, I don't have the emotional energy to become invested in this person right now. Like, why is this happening? Like, what the fuck is going on? And then, like, but that's going to be one of the interludes that, like, I really, really remember. Like, that one was just incredible.
That's so funny because I totally was like, this is super interesting.
I was like, fuck this.
But I can understand your feelings, but I just, that's totally not me for those interludes. So that's pretty amusing to me.
Yeah. And again, I love them and I know that it's going to be great. I just don't feel like it's going to be great.
So when we guessed, like we were guests on Pale Reflections, like we pretty much like had all interludes as our things because ours were like all others, right?
It was Arc 10. I don't think but none of them were strangers. Like
oh, I guess that's true.
We knew who they all were.
So as long as we know who they are, then it's fine. Yeah. If they're strangers,
then I'm like super excited. But if it's just like literally who the fuck is this? I'm like,
oh, that would have been so funny if that was like every single one.
That would have been so much emotional energy that I would have had to expend in a very short amount of time.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Time we could have been, using making more random Christmas, like, anecdotes and weird things. Wasn't that episode like in July or something?
I think
probably
end of May. I was on my road trip to the Grand Canyon, so I think that was I think that was like end of May.
Okay. It was not Christmas time, is basically what I'm getting at. Anyway, sorry, keep going with the chapter. Yes.
Yeah, Joseph. So I had a really hard time pitting this chapter or this section of the chapter down based on like location. The vests and the house with like the white columns and the busy streets and I don't know about the bowler hats. I don't know where I placed that or whatever. But just and like the dust, like so much of like what I was picturing, like I kept thinking about it in like the American South. And I know that it's like not in the American South, but it was like at one point he almost says ain't, and I'm like, do Canadian Hicks say ain't? Or did Canadian Hicks in like the early 1900s or whatever say ain't? What is happening? I mean, and so I just picture it like blazing sun, like southerny town. I probably picture it too far back in time. Yeah.
I did not get American South from this, but
yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. Well, just like, they're going to a duel. They got the
I mean, maybe part of it is that it actually said like Toronto, and Toronto was very much his sort of city in there.
Oh my god, where does it say that? This is funny.
Let's see. It's pretty much in the beginning.
That's so funny.
Let's see. Yeah, it's like the nameless bogeyman had adopted this new role in familiarhood with a surprising ease. Then again, he was a stealer of faces by trade and actor. Toronto was very much his sort of city.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So. It just kept, like, I kept trying, and it just kept, like, flipping. But that's fine.
I mean, yeah. It happens.
Yeah. But it was fun. Also, so speaking of the familiar, I really love this character, and I know this character is a bad thing. Oh god, I don't know. Like, he's so interesting, and like he seems kind of like gentlemanly rogue-y. But he's like, he's like wellish enough dressed, but then he's also, like he's gonna murder people, but he's like doing it because he's made these promises to this guy, but also he's like, I'm gonna make sure that the promises are fulfilled in the murder. Like, the fact that he's an actor is really fun. I love that he's like, I'll only lie to you. Like, oh god, what is it? I wrote it down. The only lies I tell you will be for your own good. Like, I don't know. I just like really, really liked him. And it was a fascinating thing of like, I don't normally like characters like this. And I was also thinking about boogeymen and how I feel like I don't have a lot of exposure to them so far. I actually, to make sure that I was right about that, I clicked through every single chapter in Pale and Control F for boogeyman. I didn't Control F for boogeymen, so I might have missed a little bit, but I Control F'd just to make sure that, like, because I remember like the pig guy, but boogeyman wasn't in that chapter at all. And stuff, and like maybe
was he a boogeyman?
Yeah, I sort of thought maybe, but I don't think so because it wasn't described
explicitly. Okay, like I don't remember.
The word boogeyman was not used in this chapter.
Do you remember any boogeymen in particular in Pale?
I found some.
Okay.
So I was like, what are these things? So they're abyssal, and every time when people are teaching people about the world, and they're talking about like different types of threats or whatever, goblins and boogeymen are clumped together a lot, as like a physical threat. But they're abyssal, and I wanted to say I don't think boogeymen work in groups, but then there's that one group that challenged Anthem in Basil's interlude. The Verona fights one in the Carmine Beast's Memories. But the boogeyman that I found in Pale was Cage Rattler.
Was what?
Cage Rattler, the dad in the son's cage.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Any other ones?
Not. George's, I think, familiar is a boogeyman.
What does that look like again? I'm blanking on
something about drugs. One. Something about.
Oh, okay.
Something about.
Any other ones that you can think of? Because they're in the most recent chapter.
I haven't read Lucy's chapter.
Okay. So they've met. They kind of have a callback to some that we've read about before.
Hey, I Control F, so I don't know.
Let me see here. I think they've mentioned two. I'm gonna look and make sure I remember which ones. I'm thinking of one in particular, but I want to see if I remember the second one they mentioned. Killwagon? Is that one of the ones you just said? That I don't remember.
No, I said Cage Rattler.
Okay.
I don't remember Killwagon.
I don't either, so that one might be a new one, but like they didn't mention anything about them. But the other one you should definitely know because it's Milkmaid.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I Control F'd every fucking chapter.
Okay. I mean,
and now I'm gonna go find this out. Okay. Maybe it's because it was from Raph's. Well, it was Alpi's point of view. Because like maybe Raph didn't know what a boogeyman was.
Yeah.
At that point. That was our arc too.
No worries.
By our arc, I mean arc 10. Okay. Yeah, the word boogeyman is not used in that chapter in my defense.
Okay, that's fair. But just so you know, at least in the most recent one, it does refer to her as a boogeyman. So
cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to figure out like what are boogeymen. Like again, Wildbow doesn't like boxes, but there are a lot of categories in this universe. And it just seems like humanoid, connected to the abyss, very physically dangerous. Seem to be the things that I know what boogeymen are. Because I was like, oh, do boogeymen all have this nailing face thing? But I thought about it and I was like, oh no, they don't. Like, this is this guy. Face stealers are fucking cool and fucking horrifying. But that's not like a common characteristic, I don't think, of the boogie,
A
the
boogeyman.
boogie's men,
The
the
boogie
boogie's
people.
man. Yes.
The boogie on down.
Tonight.
Do you think that there's a 1960s themed boogeyman?
It's gonna be like Zed's nemesis.
What was that?
Well,
Zed's nemesis?
Yeah.
Only because he's mad that he didn't make him his familiar.
I mean, he could.
Doesn't he have a librarian? Oh, wait, is that not his familiar? It is, isn't it? Or is that just his, like... No, maybe it's not a familiar.
I thought she was just one of his...
I don't know. She might just be bound.
Yeah, because if she is, she's not around very often.
That's a good point.
But yeah, so I liked this chapter and this part. The part where the little kid looks up and sees the boogeyman and freaks out, whereas everyone else around isn't seeing him. I kind of had some time working through, like, I think being a familiar helps give him some more protection, but also the innocence part, like, boogeymen are mostly, or like this one in particular is mostly like humanoid, and so the innocence maybe can like shield a lot of the face, especially with the familiar bond helping out. He just can't take it like too far. And I liked how we got a reminder again that like little kids can see the practice, basically. Like, they don't, like, little kids, old people, sick people, whatever. And I was wondering, like, Joseph refers to it as innocence, like, italicized. And is there do we have a word for this? Because, like, Pale starts out this way, right, with Louise. It's important, but it doesn't come up super often. But, like, because I don't think this little kid is aware.
No.
But he's not innocent in the same, like, he's super innocent or something. He's so innocent that he can see the practice. I don't know. I just don't know if there's a term for it. I don't know if you know if there's a term.
I'm trying to skim over this just to see if I see anything else. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't know. Keep moving on.
Yeah, just if somebody knows, it's kind of an interesting part of the world. But yeah, and I was flexing my practice identifying skills, which honestly the first time around I didn't understand as much, but, you know, like, so the boogeyman is his familiar, duh. And I think the knife is his implement, because it's like, oh, it's your trick, but like the boogeyman can use it because they're they're connected. I think that the like, I felt fairly sympathetic to Joseph the first time around. The second time around, a lot less so, partially because what is her name?
Courtney.
Courtney. I was like, Caroline? Partly because Courtney is like, I didn't ask you to save me, what the fuck?
Yeah. Which
helped change things kind of on the first read, but then also, like, this dude picked a boogeyman and also a knife. I didn't go back and look up all the implications of knife in the implement text, but, like, it's not very chill. Like,
yeah,
knives aren't swords, right? Like, they can be used for a lot of, like, other purposes than just, like, violence.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's Wild Bow. It's just like Jack Slash vibes. Like, this man is not Jack Slash, obviously, but just like a knife feels a lot more violent than a lot of other implements. And that combined with the boogeyman, it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? It seems like this dude, like, saw this girl once or twice and, like, fell in love with her or whatever, and then decided to free her from her father, who keeps her in his house all the time. And it's kind of like, you're delusional? What are you doing? Like,
yeah. And then, like, is talking and then highly insinuates that, like, he's in love with his daughter and that's why he's locking her away from all men in the world. It's like, well,
yeah, I mean, like, the dad kind of obviously sucks, but
yeah.
And I wish we'd gotten a little bit more of, like, what like Courtney, what she wanted, and what, because I feel like she probably resented being trapped in the house, if that was, you know, true, which it seems like it maybe was. She probably had some sort of, I don't know, plan to get herself out. I don't know. I wish I understood. I mean, I think the, like, I didn't ask you to help, or I didn't ask for your help, is, like, very powerful, but I wish I knew a little bit more. I'm just curious. about her
So
desires.
it's kind of.
And
Do you think
stuff.
it's interesting how Jacob is talking about like I guess his name is Canfield, his family's practice?
How Joseph is talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I feel like guessing that they're like he's like a collector or a I put artificer in my
Mm-hmm.
notes. I don't know if that's the right term for
Right
it.
term.
But like it's like collecting magical items but also like making them or like altering them. Because
Mm-hmm.
like Courtney made the doll thing that tied everything up and I was like
It's not
that's
like an
actually
enchantress or an enchanter, or am I thinking of?
enchanters deal with connections, right? That's the
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Duchamps. Oh wait, I had a
Oh
big
yeah,
thing of
that's right.
notes somewhere. Crap, where did I put that? I remember having a big thing of notes somewhere. Yeah.
Sweet.
Let me see if I could find anything to make a better guess.
All right. Oh, you're looking like it's kind of funny how like he describes it so negatively, just like your family hoards, like you collect and make trinkets, you decorate yourself with them, you twisted that, turned it backwards, you're hoarding her. So that's kind of interesting.
Sounds
Is
kind of
how he's
dragony, the hoarding.
dragony. Yes.
But I guess the twisting also is like poos or whatever, like demons take things and then twist them, like upturn the natural order.
That might be looking a little bit too much into this in terms of I don't think this is demonic.
Sure, I mean yeah. So now I'm a little bit confused because you said the word enchanter, and I think maybe thought enchanters dealt with connections, but I'm looking at my notes, and enchanter is one of the schools of contrivances which are focused on physical objects. And it's listed there with collector. So like
Okay.
yeah.
I thought it sounded right when I was saying it, at least.
Right. Enchanter's listed twice in my I don't know. I guess
It could
it's
be
just
like multiple
they
things,
kind of like yeah, different flavors.
Like, different flav. I'm sorry.
Of the enchanters.
The
Wow, this
enchanters.
thing is actually coming in somewhat handy. Okay. Yeah, I like again like that. It's okay. Having this be set in the other verse, this like argument, this fight, is really fascinating because it felt again like a Western type duel or whatever to me. But this isn't like bragging. This isn't bravioso. This is like they need to be telling like things as true as possible.
Yeah.
And so the like you twist this and you like I think that he has an inappropriate relationship with his daughter, at least insofar as like he doesn't allow her to leave the house. Like that's shitty, right? That's inappropriate parenting.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily buy the whole incest thing.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't know.
We don't have enough info, which I'm kind of okay with right now. I don't really want more info. Yeah, but he could be insinuating something more inappropriate, like than it actually is in terms of that. But also it could, just be like him hoarding her away to keep her safe forever and ever, like way overprotective stuff. But Canfield gets pissed and shoots Joseph in the knee, and says he's. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that part I felt was written very well. Like I couldn't literally, feel it, but I felt like the weight of it, like the way Wildbow described that moment, and then later when he was like, that was the mistake that like decided the fight or whatever, or decided the encounter. Like both of those moments I think like landed really well with me. Something about the like interruption kind of the flow of things and the like focus on the knee and just I don't know. It was really cool.
Yeah.
There was also a weird moment where, and you can please explain this if you know what I'm talking about. Joseph asks where Hester is, but then later, thinks of the daughter as Courtney. We never hear who Hester is, and I don't know if that was like a mistake where Wildbow had named her Hester and then changed it, or if that was like a Scarlet Letter reference. Like, did you read the Scarlet Letter?
I did.
I think her name's Hester. That's the only Hester I can think of. But I wasn't sure what that had to do. Yeah, Hester Prynne. I wasn't sure what at all that had to do with the situation, or if it did, or if Hester was someone else.
Maybe it's her. Maybe Courtney's her middle name.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a funny thing. It's interesting. I feel like I do catch more, even just little typos and stuff in Pact, and like it's not worth it for Wildbow to go back and edit those things now. He has a lot like going on. But I feel like the community with Pale is pretty good about finding typos and like letting him know. And it's sort of interesting going back and finding these. Knowing like, I don't know, the way the community has probably grown and also like found a flow of how to help Wildbow with this sort of thing. It's just sort of neat. Oh yeah, okay. Well then the action, so he gets shot in the knee, and then God, the fucking boogeyman is just so good and so fucking awful. Like he murders the manservant and he comes back, and that part was so well, like, so the first part when he jumped up and then the guy turns around and shoots him again, like I thought he was gonna get him, but then it's like the manservant's coming down the stairs and then he's stabbing him in the stomach. That was really a lot and great. And I think the moment he stabs him, I got that it was the boogeyman. But it was just so like, holy fuck. It's also interesting that he never refers to the boogeyman by name. Like that's shitty. Learn some manners. Maybe they don't have names. I think they probably have names. But yeah, he's like stabbing him, and that was a lot. And I was surprised he didn't die, immediately. But the whole like the detail of the kitchen knives being stuck in his face, that was really
bad.
Good. And then the second big boogeyman attack or whatever, so he explicitly says like, I made an illusion for the boogeyman and I made an illusion for Courtney, but I was like reading so fast and was so like, the first time I read it that I like didn't process that or didn't read it or whatever. And so the whole like, the boogeyman is wearing Courtney's face and she's dead and her face is ripped off, and I was just like, I can't do like what it was like, this doesn't make sense. But maybe the boogeyman was like, I will go to the ends of the earth to kill this man. And I was like, I don't get what's happening, but maybe this is what's happening. And then it was like, no, this isn't happening. And I was like, that's great, but also holy fuck. It was just so good.
It's great.
Yeah. God, and yeah.
And
then God, and then he's like, yeah.
You go ahead.
Well, he's just like, I swear I will see you die. And I'm like, okay, it seems like he's probably gonna die right now, but god damn it. And it like gave him the strength to like stand up or whatever, but like, fuck.
No, fuck. I mean, I guess to be fair, it seemed like that was a...
Well, I mean, but he was also like bleeding out, he wasn't just standing there all like perfectly healthy or whatever. And he's like, he'll probably die before me because he's old. And it's like, that's not a good... I mean, like, he was kind of like, I need to like make this statement so that the karma and the spirits help me with this moment, and it was working, and then it didn't work.
And then it stopped. Yeah. And then of course it was like, I prefer subjugation over death. I surrender myself, and you can root yourself in me, basically.
Oh my god.
Take care of my daughter. And it's like, well, shit.
I just like, that's just the wrong choice, bro. Like, I can't imagine a world where that was the right decision. Like, just die. It's okay. Like, it sucks, but like, it doesn't suck as bad as what you're going through right now. Like, I just...
Yeah.
That was so fascinating. And it was just really ridiculous that like, he like, summons Lord of Toronto, basically. He just kind of like shows up and he's like, oh, hey. And I was just like, fucking hell. Because when he was like, I'm friends with the Lord of Toronto, I was like, that's bad. And then he's just like, hello. Right. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, hello. Okay, great. Thank you for your, like, mortal vessel. And I guess you're never going to die now or something. And I guess that means that Joseph is forsworn. Also, I don't know if I just don't remember this, but when you are forsworn, are all of your descendants also forsworn?
Mm-mm.
No?
No.
That was just him being a super dick?
He's just a super dick, yeah.
So he can do that because he's
I think
a
lot of times if you're forsworn, you're not necessarily going to get a chance to have a lot of offspring. Because you're probably going to get killed off, or people are going to be so repulsed by you, they're not going to want to...
But presumably...
have your offspring.
Right, but presumably, like, you could... Like, any of the practitioner families' parents that we know could be forsworn, and they already have kids.
Sure. Pretty sure that's just a them thing.
Yeah, because it's, like, super fucked. On so many... I guess... This made me so mad and was so awful. And especially after reading, like, how much of a dick Charles has been lately, and just, like, how much the system is... And I mean, like, I know Charles is right that the system sucks or whatever, but, like, God, this sucked.
I mean, I mean, the one I really feel bad for in this is Courtney.
Courtney.
Because
Yeah.
it's like, for one, she didn't ask for his help, but then, like, her dad just, like, sure, he doesn't quite die, but gets taken over by, like, Lord of Conquest. Now she
Right.
has to marry this dude, whether she wanted
Right.
to or not. And all her kids are going to be fucking slaves to this thing forever. So, thanks.
Right. Well, it's just, like, not, like, literally no one wanted this situation. Like, Canfield, like, personally is probably, like, suffering or whatever the fuck happens when you, like, become part of Conquest. And then
Conquest
he's like...
was cool with it.
Well, yeah, he totally won. And then, like, he was literally like, just take care of my daughter. And so he was like, oh, yes, I will make sure she is married. Like, I will force her to be married to this man who I'm now making my servant, for, like, and his whole line for all of eternity on threat of being forsworn. And it was just another, like, I mean, he does forswear all of his heirs as well, and then is like, or you can work for me and I'll help you out. But, like, oh god, it just sucks so bad. And, like, it's another, like...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I would do in that situation, and being forsworn is obviously awful, but, like, it's another kind of, like, cowardly, selfish choice. Like,
yeah,
what the dad does, and then he turns around and also does a similar thing of being like, yeah. But then I was like, so they're technically forsworn, but also they still have to, like, not lie and shit, because I guess they can practice.
Oh,
So they
I think
still
he
have to
was
not
like,
lie.
you're forsworn, but I offer you the protections that you would forfeit. And you basically, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, does that mean that if Conquest loses, then Fell and his family are fucked? So that sucks.
Well, I mean, I still think it was just Joseph that's forsworn. It's just that they all have to be in his service.
Well, he says he refers to Matthew or someone later saying, like, because of your first sworn blood or whatever, but then he also... Okay, everything rotated moving. Okay, I name you forsworn. I bind you by your name, by your entirety. I bind you by your blood to bind all of your kin that follow after you. I bind you by your word to claim obedience for yourself, or to claim your obedience for myself. And then he says, oh, okay, wait. Well, yeah, Matthew Atwell, as I bound your father, I bind you by your forsaken blood. You are bent to my will. So I'm not sure what's happening, but it's fine.
That's not fucking fair.
Yeah, it's not.
Right?
This man is an asshole.
He's a dickhead. Which tracks.
Yeah. He just sucks so much. But also, I don't know if Atwell's familiar just because I read this chapter, but, like, Atwell seems familiar. Emily Atwell seemed familiar. I even looked at, like, the kids list at the BHI, but she wasn't in there. I don't know if Atwell is a name that I should know, but it felt really familiar. I don't know.
Okay, so we're kind of getting all over. So, yes. Next part, let's talk about the next part, because I thought that was kind of powerful. You know, just like, he tried to push, he loved his son so much that he treated him like crap and tried to push him away as much as he could to get him to run away or to kill him, and it still didn't work.
Yeah, this sucked.
Yeah.
I feel like his whole, like, I have magic and you don't, was, like, not the best way to get him to not want to use the practice. And I also feel like, ultimately, like, it seems like Matthew understands that his dad was trying to do the best he could or whatever.
Yeah.
But this was not the right way to go about this. I don't know. But it was it was a good twist, kind of, the like, I'm so disappointed in like the day that you were born, and I've never been as disappointed since until now, blah, 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 because it's like, I'm disappointed because you're doomed, and I'm disappointed because, you know, you want to go see the magic, which means it's like, you're super doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just really sad and awful.
And it was really
and
sad
Conquest
and
just, like, appearing was like, this is really extra and okay.
Yeah, like, you suck so fucking much.
Yeah.
So then it goes to Matthew when he's grown up, who's trying a different way, basically, and trying to talk to Isadora.
Yeah. This was a much better way to go about things. It wasn't ultimately successful, but I think it really helped. his descendants have a better chance. It was interesting seeing how like emotionally traumatized Matthew is. That he feels really awful for feeling angry because of how his dad was, even though it was like he understands kind of, and it's like whatever, just like I don't know. Matthew seems very emotionally, he seems
Fucked.
to, yeah. I thought it was fun that the Sphinx was here. I always forget about the question thing, but I kind of got it when it started happening again, where she started rephrasing things. It's interesting that it seems like Matthew's married to Duchamp. I don't think I wrote her name down. But it's like, yeah, Jacob's Bell, yeah, enchantresses, yeah. Oh wait, no, she can't have married a Duchamp. Maybe
Yeah.
she's a Bohème? Yeah, I just realized she can't be a Duchamp because Malcolm couldn't exist because he's a boy.
He's a boy.
But they talk about being enchanters. What the fuck? Okay, wait.
Well, hold on. I think that was just like Fell's brother married, right?
Well, he said enchantment works well with illusion.
Yeah, but
and then
okay, we'll get there when we get there, and then we can talk about it. I guess we're just about there. So after Matthew gets pissed because he's like, well, fuck, they're all gonna be my kids, which normally would be a weird thing to be pissed about, but it makes sense for him. So, like his wife cheated, yet they're all gonna be his kids. Then it goes to Fell, which
right. Oh well, I wanted
name.
to say, I wonder if that's because is that just like a Conquest doesn't care because they're all essentially adopted or whatever, or is it like the magic of Conquest and whoever the fuck, like how Dionysus was like they will be boys or whatever.
I'd say either magic or chance, but they're his kids. You know, by blood. I think the blood part matters.
Yeah, probably.
It's talking about like forsaken blood and blah 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 blah. All right, but then we go to Fell, or AKA Malcolm.
Woo.
It is like just dropped off the really shitty looking diabolist. And
yeah, this part was interesting because there were 3 maimed goblins with chains around their necks. And so we know who presumably the 3 allies were. I'm curious as to like where did they get these? I'm thinking possibly the knights had some or something because like the chains, but maybe I'm too obsessed with the chain. I don't know that there's just been 3 goblins following like around since Jacob's Bell. If like Maggie gave him some goblins or whatever, that doesn't make as much sense. The halogen lights and wires are funny. I wonder if they stopped by the hardware store or whatever. And this sort of messed up my thing about the narrative, but I think that like the main story is the narrative and this is a history, so Fell could remember that they existed in a history before he can't remember that they existed or something. It was nice of Wildbow to give us this glimpse, but
yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's nice he gave us a little bit of a glimpse. So I don't know. Does that mess up your theory?
I think I'm saying no because this is a history, so it's not the same narrative. It's fine.
Okay. But it would be erased from history.
But at the time that we're in Fell's head, he is experiencing
But we were in Blake's head earlier.
Right. Well, I think Blake's I mean, that was a really good writing tool to make us like confused, but also I think that Blake's narrative takes like we are farther in the future a little bit. Whereas in this part we're farther in the past.
I would just argue that it'd be erased from history. So if you're going to argue that, they're erased from Blake's narrative completely, even though we're with him more in the past, I would argue that at least if the writing is going to be through the book like that, as your theory was, I'd probably argue that should have been erased now. But
yeah, but it just doesn't make sense for them to only be erased a little bit because then all those people would remember their loved ones.
Yeah, no, that's the point. That wouldn't have. Wait,
but he sees the goblins, so this must take place. Like this narrative must take place immediately when he sees them leaving. The problem is that it advances far enough that it shouldn't necessarily be there. Whereas I think Blake's narrative, like the perspective of it, is looking farther, is like from someone.
Well, I think I'm
looking back
arguing
through
that
the
I
whole
don't.
story.
I think I'm arguing that I don't know if I agreed with your premise and that like it's necessarily all erased. But I think other people have different perspectives on that.
That's fair.
Because I'm
Well,
like, if it's from what I understood you were trying to say last episode, if it's erased, it should just all be erased, like it never existed. And I think this is a point into that. That's not how it was being written.
Well, I mean, like those things existed. They impacted the world. Like the lighter
the way
or whatever
that
Blake used to light the thing existed and impacted the world. But no one can remember that they existed.
Yeah, no one can remember that they impacted the world either, though.
But Blake can remember that he set the fire, and Blake can remember that things were eaten, and those people can remember that they had allies that they went to the thing with.
He remembers there was a fire. He doesn't really. I don't think he remembers how he started it, and he doesn't. Was like,
but he remembers that he started it.
I think he also infers that he started it, like because he knows that this is a demon that consumes everything and makes it so that things don't exist.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's like partially he's just smart and figuring it out as opposed to actually like remembering and being like, oh yeah, this happened, or I have these allies, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Anyway, but Fell did note the goblins, which is cool. He's a reckless driver on purpose because he's kind of trying to die. And then he goes and see his niece. And I'm realizing that you were saying that you think Matthew got married to Duchamp. Whereas
well, now I'm thinking Matthew got married to a boheme.
Very possibly. I'm thinking that Fell's brother got married to Duchamp.
Okay, where do you see that?
So as we go, we're saying like he goes and see his niece, and I feel like they were talking about enchantment somewhere in here. And let's see if I made that up or not. Well, they were talking about enchantment at least. So, that when they're having the conversation together, it says in enchantment we pay particular attention to degrees of connection. There tend to be figures who serve at the heart of the intricate webs of connections, people who have far more connections extending from them than your typical person. Social people, players of the game, catalysts. You most certainly are not this kind of figure, Malcolm. So, and then my family,
you think that this woman is her mom?
Say that again? Sorry.
But like he's talking to his mom.
I thought he was... Hold on. I need to read this again.
Earlier it says, thank you for picking her up at the airport, he said to his mother. And then, what I'm going to talk about with Grandma here has something to do with whether we'll let you learn magic. So this is his mom.
For some reason, I've made up a fictional widow in my brain and stuck her in here.
No, I mean, that would make sense if, like, for the Duchamp thing. But I guess, like, she has to be a boheme?
Yeah.
Or something, but I mean... I didn't think they were enchanters. I don't know. I'm just confused.
Let me see here. Well, let's talk. I mean, ignoring the part where I just made up a character. Let's see. So basically, they're talking about like the Thorburns and the Mere Companions and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. It talks about somewhere her family in here. Where did it say that?
She's like, my family doesn't want him to succeed or something.
Which does not narrow it down whatsoever, unfortunately.
To find it for you?
What was that? No, I mean, it doesn't narrow down like what family she's from.
Oh, right. My family doesn't particularly want him to do well here. And then at one point she references the wedding that's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll be visiting for the wedding in Jacob's Bell.
Always good when like the one who read the books already has less of a grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, well, I did go through and take a bunch of notes, to be fair.
And I have allergies, so excuses. Okay. We're spending probably way more time on that than necessary, especially since I feel like we should be talking about, like, Fell a little bit more.
Sure, but it is interesting, like, I mean, Jacob's Bell is more interesting to me than Toronto, and I'm excited to go back there, and it's interesting seeing, like, how those people have infiltrated other parts of the story in ways that, like, like Blake has no idea that Fell's mom is connected to Jacob's Bell. And that's super important and nuts and just like an interesting wrinkle. And it's, yeah, they're everywhere. I don't know. Fucking practitioners.
I know. And shoot, now I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
what happened
Unless
to
Fell and his brother are both trans. That's the other answer.
I feel like that would have been mentioned a little bit more than this, honestly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I definitely feel like that would have been mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering what happened to his brother's wife. Unless that's another thing that I...
No, that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about her. Because I'm assuming that this is the brother who was with the goblins, but maybe it wasn't. Like the brother that Maggie meets. But maybe he had another brother. And this was, you know. It sucks that he was so reckless that he died when he has a daughter. But I guess this family is, you know, fucked.
I mean, I think it was kind of on purpose. Also to maybe, like, help the daughter.
I guess if all the adults die, maybe she's free.
Yeah.
Or all of the
like,
people in the line
to
die.
The mom? That's just what I want to know. But
yeah, someone write fan fiction about Emily's mom. Tell us what happened.
I don't know. I feel I'm not the biggest fan of fan fiction, but I haven't read that much, I guess, to be fair. But like,
yeah,
I don't know. Nothing against anyone who writes it, because some people do write good stuff, but I just feel like I don't know. I feel like a lot of it like doesn't hold the candle to the original work for a lot of things.
Sure,
Maybe that's unfair. But
I think Wellboat. I mean, I guess he could just tell us. But I feel like he's busy and has other things to do. And if someone wants to be like, maybe this happened, then that'd be fun.
I guess so, as like a thought exercise. But I'm also just being like someone making it up and being like, hey, this. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, you're just making believe that's not canon. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about this because probably I could see it being controversial because I know some people really, really like fanfiction.
Yeah.
I think maybe some of it's just like, at least for Worm, a lot of people who write Worm fanfiction haven't read the story.
Oh, I feel like I've heard that. They like Wikipedia it or something.
Yeah, it just really rubs me the wrong way. I'm like,
That's fascinating.
I mean, I guess it's a long story, but like,
if you're that really invested to write fan fiction about it,
if you're writing freaking fan fiction, maybe read the damn book, people. I don't know. Like, it's because some people, I don't know, just like some people ask questions about like Scion or about like, I don't know, Jack Slash's power, I don't know, different things, and be like, oh, like I didn't see that, like that's really obvious, like that they didn't read the book, and people are like, did you read the book? Because you'd know this if you read the book, you know? It's just like, anyway. I mean, okay, if you're gonna write fan fiction, just read the original story, because it's only fair. I mean, you might as well, like, you know,
give
the author
if someone's writing fan fiction based solely on what they've learned from this podcast, I would be like so down to read that.
I mean, it would be really funny. It'd be more of a morbid curiosity for me, I think.
Sure.
Like, I'd be like, all right, I'll take a look, but I wouldn't necessarily be like, yes, this is going to be like so right on.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of funny though. I'd look at that and be like, all right. Be like,
just to see like what someone could get out of this podcast. That'd be fun.
Yes, and be like, let's see how many things that like we need to be better at explaining. Like, let's see how inaccurate this is compared to.
Yeah, we're assuming that people are familiar with the story or whatever, but
true. I mean, I mean, frankly, I'm assuming a lot of people are more familiar than I am with the story, and not because I'm not paying attention, but you know, a lot of people read really, really deeply into this, these stories, which is really good. I'm just tending to like reread it as opposed to deeply analyze it. This is basically like me rereading it, all my sisters reading it, and us having a conversation about it and getting shit wrong, you know? So it's not like a real deep dive on my part, which maybe it should be, but I'm one of the hosts, so I get to decide. And I mean, you know, I got shit going on, so it's just, I mean, sure, it's an excuse, but it's hard with like two little teeny kids to like sit and analyze really deeply and make notes on a book for, a couple hours, and I'm making excuses. I don't need to do that, but I just did anyway, so it's fine. But Malia analyzes stuff enough for me, so
Well, I try.
But yeah, it's great. It's like sometimes, you analyze shit so well. I'm just like, oh, that was a good point. I'm just gonna like act like I figured that out already. So I'm just gonna be like, yeah, yeah, totally right, Malia. Good catch,
Yeah, these stories are fun.
Yeah, no, these stories are really all right. Tangent over back to what we were talking about, which he was talking with his mom. They were talking about Thorburns. Conquest basically tugs him to his tower, which kind of inconsiderate, but I mean, based on this chapter, we can tell Conquest isn't the most considerate guy in the world.
Oh my god.
So.
Well, it just like Fell getting tugged to a location. It was like when Blake was like yelling his name over and over. And I was like, oh, no wonder Fell hated that. Because obviously this happens a lot. And Conquest doesn't even say like, thanks for coming or whatever. like no wonder Fell hated that so much. It's, learning more about characters is fascinating.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I find myself a little bit confused about like the locals are stirring and like shit's going down, because I'm like, I guess people know that this kid is going after demons or whatever, but like, who is it? Just the knights? Is the Sphinx doing something? Is that one woman who is horny for blank that one woman who is horny for Blake doing something? Who's doing thing? Maybe Jeremy's doing something. I don't know. And oh god, and then Rose is there, and it's like, oh, he's gonna release the imp, and he's figured out how to release the goblin, and he's working with the knights, and they're coming, and they're gonna lock you in a room with the demon arm. And I'm like, what? Like, I know they got the demon arm, that was cool, and like, what? But like, what? And I guess I'm wondering, I wish I knew exactly when this was happening in relation to when Blake got out, because Rose didn't see him get the arm. And they did have some time to like plan and talk about Conquest and stuff. And so I'm really, really, really hoping that Rose is
bluffing.
Yeah. Or like misdirecting, or that this is part of the plan or something. I don't know if it is. I mean, like, Conquest is really scary, but I don't know.
Oh, I mean, what are your vibes? Is that hope, or is that what you think?
I mean, I guess it would really change my perspective of Rose if this is not part of some plan. Because it seems like they did have some time to come up with something. She even knows that like Blake has the arm, and that this is the plan, because they didn't have the arm until after he came out, right? So there's been some sort of discussion about it or something. It really disappointed me, and it would really change the way I see Rose. It doesn't match with what I understand her character to be, to give in. That being said, Rose has been attacked by a demon in her own crazy mirror realm today. And she's exhausted and overwhelmed, and she's been in a coma. And things just went very, very poorly. And Fel was like, it's easier to just tell him. But I think, and she is alone. She's not with Blake right now. And I think he gives her a lot of strength. But I don't know. My gut is that this is part of a plan. And I'm very ready to be wrong.
So if it's not part of a plan, do you think it could be like magical coercion? Or do you think it's more likely for her to just be like intimidated into talking?
See, everything you say just reminds me of the Wheel of Time.
Maybe I should read that someday.
You really should. It's very long. I'm trying to think if there's any weaves or whatever that like compel people to talk. No, sorry, weaves. I'm talking about the Wheel of Time. I'm trying to think if there's any like practice shit that. By the way, I think last week or something I said channeling, which is the word for magic in the Wheel of Time. And anyway,
it's funny.
I'm trying to think if there's any practicey things that compel people to speak,
or even just like,
and I don't think so.
In terms of him being Conquest,
Oh, I guess there's probably like a lot of you are shackled and I have defeated you and you're my bitch and I'm Conquest, and so he probably has some more.
You're my bitch and I'm Conquest.
Yeah,
I think that should be on one of our t-shirts.
yeah. It has some more karma-y stuff probably happening. Like I won't like blame Rose, but I will be disappointed. I don't know.
It's the end of the arc. What?
Whoa, we did it! That was
We did
not
it.
super long arc, but you know.
But it was an arc, and every arc counts. Okay. I know, we're getting used to like Pale, where it's like 15 arcs long.
Well,
you know.
arc 4, I feel like these are just not super consistent in length, because like arc 3 was like, 4 chapters or something ridiculous, and then arc 4 was like 12, and then this one was like, it's been
it kind of just does what it does,
vacillating, right?
It does its own thing.
Yeah, which is kind of exciting. It's like, ooh, what's happening?
It is exciting. It is exciting. I do like it. So we're gonna talk about, what does conviction mean?
Woo! So I guess like, Blake was trapped in the police station like a convict or something. And they have enough conviction to face the Splinter. There was that big moment about like, Blake, are you ready for this? And, like, he had to have enough conviction to do it. And then the thing that I was actually kind of proud of was thinking about Joseph being forsworn. I think being forsworn is like being convicted. With Charles, obviously, there's a lot of strong parallels with being forsworn and being a convict. And it's like that sentence of "you are forsworn" was very similar to me in terms of like, I convict you of this crime.
I like that.
Yeah,
it's pretty smart. All right. So where is the story going from here?
Okay, so I'm kind of thinking that this next arc is going to be like this night. I'm thinking too much in terms of Pale, in terms of how like, an arc is like one day sometimes or whatever. But it's like, we're going to see Blake with Fell and maybe some other people, and they're going to show up somewhere, and there's going to be some sort of like throwdown with some people who are trying to overthrow Conquest or whatever, and take advantage of the situation. And I think that we're gonna I always say this. I think that this next arc will result in us dealing with Conquest and leaving Toronto, or at least like preparing to leave Toronto. We need some more resolution with his friends and Paige and a couple of things, I feel like, before we leave. But I'm kind of feeling like this is the big, oh, fuck, and we're gonna deal with it.
Okay. So do you think that are they going to go back to the Splinter before they leave Toronto, or you think that they're going to leave and maybe come back another time, or they're not going to come back at all?
Well, I feel like they have to do it because Blake's promised to Evan. He's going to want to go back there, I think. And the other thing was they needed Conquest's help to get back into their house. Yeah. I don't know. Because they don't have a thing to go back to right now because they can't get into the house.
That's true.
That sucks.
That does suck.
Or they're just gonna be like, fuck it, time skip, and I'll get my 5-year story like I wanted.
Do you think there's gonna be a big time skip sometime?
I noticed and I had predicted that a while ago. I have no idea.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
This seems to be moving pretty quickly. And like on the one hand, I think Blake does need to heal somewhat, but also I don't think Wild Bow cares.
You heartless bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't make it as good of a story, though.
Yeah, I mean, breaks are nice.
I mean, maybe it would, but not in this story, Malia. Buckle up. We don't believe in breaks. We drive like Fell. We don't put on brakes around the corner. We just gun it and keep going.
That man.
All right. Time for our Pale in comparison section. What would we like to compare to today? Possible forsworn people? Possible servanty people? Possible boogeymen? What do you want to talk about?
You pick. I tend to pick, so you can pick.
I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess like talk about Well, what do you mean? I picked a couple of things. Okay, let's do this. Either talk about like Fell and his like whole family forswearing deal versus Charles, or talk about the differences in the boogeymen that we've seen.
We'll do the forswearing just because I still feel like I haven't seen very many bogeymen.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think, like I sort of alluded to what.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, both of these show how unfair the practice is. I mean, Charles forswearing was stupid, and this one was like cruel and served Conquest's own ends explicitly. I mean, like, in the system, the forswearing is somewhat justified because he made an oath, and that oath can't be fulfilled or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, that's because of Conquest, who then gets to make the judgment, who then gets to, like, benefit from it, which is obviously fucked. So, and I thinking a lot about, like, Charles gainsaying people and running around and being like, ooh, this, bleh, for, like, his own purposes, right? Like, I gainsay Lucy and Verona for 24 hours so that they can meet with, like, my allies to be safe, and, like, no one else will be, protected or whatever. And just like,
so that's kind of interesting because you can compare Charles to both Joseph and to Conquest. Interesting.
Fuck Charles. Yeah, Elliot mentioned on one of the most recent episodes about Charles still being right, and I have a really hard time, I think, grappling with Charles being right about a lot of things, but also being like fucking awful. Because we still want to work against Charles.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just a big asshole.
Yeah. I guess it's like, so earlier this chapter, the boogeyman says to Joseph, like, you're sure about why you want it, but I'm not sure, like, about what you want in terms of, like, wanting to get the girl and being willing to use the boogeyman to, like, murder people for it. And it's like a means ends dichotomy sort of a thing where, like, he knows what end he wants, but he wasn't certain about the means. And I guess Charles, like, is right about the end. He's right about the system being fucked, but, like, the means by which Charles is going about this suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking Charles.
Yeah.
It's so funny. When we started this podcast, I really thought Pale would be ending soon, and I would be able to look at Pact from the whole lens of Pale. And I mean, I'm glad we've been doing this, and it's fun to be able to talk about Pale somewhat as it's developing, but I wonder how much our earlier episodes of this podcast would have been influenced by later episodes. I don't know, or later chapters.
That's true. Well, I mean, if you feel like you have a big insight, we could always go back and do, like, a quick recap episode.
That's fair.
We'll see what happens in the future. Would you rather deal with Conquest or with Carmine Charles?
I think it depends on how personally involved I was with the whole Kenneth situation. I think if I wasn't that personally involved, Charles definitely. He's gonna lose, right? Like, like, all of the conversations have been like, he will be unseated soon. Like, Liz is like, yeah, he has like 2 years tops or whatever. Whereas Conquest is like this big, powerful incarnation who is like waning in power, but still fucking crazy powerful, right? And has no human sympathy or emotion or anything. Whereas Charles at least has some. I don't know. Fuck Conquest. Sure. I hate it.
All right. Another question for you.
Also, he has slaves, and that would be really annoying to be around.
Yeah, that's really shit. Yeah. Would you rather, if you were forsworn, would you rather be Charles forsworn, where you're taken care of by Ken and others, or would you rather be like Joseph, where you may still get to practice, but all your family is in the same boat?
Yeah, no, Charles. All
right, that's the right answer.
Charles.
That's good.
Charles was fine. Is that a hot take? Charles was fine.
Yeah, I mean, his life kind of
Charles'
sucked,
life wasn't that bad.
Or forsworn.
Hot take.
You know? I mean, I feel like it was bad. Like, especially, I feel like it was bad. But compared to other forsworn people, like, you know.
I mean, even like, what's his name? Seth. I would rather be Seth than be Phil.
Yeah. I mean, everyone
I
still
think.
kind of hated Seth anyway.
I'd rather be
so
Seth than be Joseph. I don't know if I'd rather be Seth or Phil. I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like just because it fucks the rest of your family up forever, it's probably good not to choose Phil.
Yeah, that's
You
fair.
know? It's like, let the misery stop with you.
That's fair.
I guess easier said when it's not you, but you know. All right. Now it's time for Malia's bold and specific prediction, which she has not typed anything, so I'm curious what she's gonna say.
Okay, this is another one of those, like, I don't know that I believe this, but I'm saying it because it's ballsy.
Always a good disclaimer.
Because some of them I'm really, I really believe, and this one, like,
True.
This is I will get so many points if I'm right, and it'll be funny if I'm not.
All right.
I think that Poos will very briefly be the Lord of Toronto.
Okay. All right.
So this doesn't make sense, right? Because, like, well, so Poos is stronger than Conquest, and he's coming for him or whatever, apparently. And he wants power and shit. But
yeah.
I think I would have heard something about there being a demon Lord of Toronto impact
Unless
or impale.
Ur ate him.
Yeah. Is that
Can demons eat other demons?
So what you're saying is that Poos becomes the Lord of Toronto, and then they go capture the Splinter and stick him on Poos.
I mean, I'm not saying anything, but I mean, it could happen.
That's as good as a prediction as any. So that's the prediction.
That's great. Okay, so Poos becomes the Lord of Toronto, and then something happens. Okay, so wait, do they take Poos to the warehouse, or do they actually succeed in, like, binding Ur?
Yeah, they succeed.
Okay, they bind Ur, and then use Ur to, like, just consume Poos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, like, who takes over after that? They'll probably have to make some, like, shitty political deal, and it'll be sucky, and the system will continue to be sucky, and everything will suck. And then they'll leave.
All right. And then they get... All right. Okay. I like that prediction.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, if they have, like, the Splinter, people are going to be like, that's too powerful, we need to take you out. But that's Blake's life. Yeah, okay.
But then it's like, well... If you never existed, then you're not gonna. Everyone else is gonna know how to deal with me anyway. But well, I don't know. That's only if you thought Blake would actually use that on people, which
people are worried about.
People are worried about. All right. So now we're gonna go over our previous discussion question, which was, what would you use to bind a demon from one of the other choirs? Some of these answers were really freaking long, which is great because it means you care, but it also means that we're going to direct you to read some of those in entirety because they were really long. But we're going to kind of read at least part of them out for you. Let me see. First one from Beleg Tal. They basically were like, for binding a demon of sin. And then they posted this URL, which went to this YouTube video about this very earnest man that was describing... I thought he was joking at first, but I think it's actually like a product he was trying to sell, called a spiritual ammo can. And it has a rosary, a scapular, holy water, and blessed salt. And they all are in their own individual little ammo things that go in this ammo can. And hilariously, I was reading some of the YouTube comments to kind of figure out if this was like a joke or not. And one guy actually posted like, don't buy this from these guys because my rosary broke and they never responded. They didn't even say sorry and they won't send me a replacement. So don't buy your spiritual ammo can from these guys because their rosary is not good quality.
That's amazing.
So I thought that was kind of amusing. So any other Catholics or Protestants or it's just anyone who wants to buy a spiritual ammo can, it's not, just, it's not just those two categories.
Well, I was going to say Catholics, there's a lot of bad things about Catholics, right? As a Catholic, I can say that. But one of the cool things about Catholics that I think everyone can like respect and get behind is when it comes to like supernatural shit, like you want the Catholicism behind you, right? You want the Catholic shit, because like a rosary, right? Fucking Catholic, a scapular, right? Like you want the like OG, like
we're
from
the OG
bones
like
of the Saint Peter and the whatever. Like that's what you want
that's
to
true.
like
We get
fucking
our
get the
fucking
demons. You
we got
know,
our relics and
like
all
like
the good shit.
right, like a non-denominational Bible just isn't really going to cut it. Like even
That's
if
not
like
gonna pack
a
a
lot of
punch.
those people, right? Even though a lot of those people maybe like respect gay people and like, you know, like do a lot of other things that maybe
that are
not all
very important.
Catholics do. But when it comes down to like fucking demons, like Catholics,
we fuck with those demons. That's right. Yeah, maybe a little behind the times on like LGBT issues, which you know there's like very old institution. They're slowly, but hopefully surely, like they're slowly kind of getting up to speed a little bit more. But yeah, we're a little behind the times on that. But you're absolutely right. If you need an exorcism done, or
you're gonna call a Catholic.
You're gonna call a Catholic. You're gonna get a Catholic priest.
Absolutely.
Because they're the ones that have the good shit.
Yeah.
You know? And in fact, I'm pretty sure that the spiritual ammo can was sold by like the Catholic, like what was it? Catholic man or something.
Oh god.
What was it? I gotta look up this YouTube video that Blegtall put on. I shouldn't have closed out of it all the way, because now this is taking more time than it should. But alas, it always does. Hurry up, internet. Internet. Okay, almost there. So yeah, binding a demon of sin. Let's look at this. I'm pretty sure it's like Catholic man. Yeah, it's from Roman Catholic man that has 618 subscribers, and the top comment says, "This is a spiritual battle. Our rosaries don't need to break the bank." Which, thank you. You're right. We don't need a super expensive rosary. Yeah, there you go. Eric Glock says, "I bought this rosary and it broke. Roman Catholic gear didn't respond to my inquiry about a guarantee. I don't think they actually made a guarantee, but it broke only from the pressure of the crucifix getting caught under the edge of a table as I stood up. I wouldn't recommend this rosary. I didn't even get an apology from them over it breaking, just no response. Roman Catholic gear doesn't stand behind their product. If you're going to help fight evil, you've got to be good yourself. Thank you."
You know, he has a point.
You know, you got a point.
Yeah.
You got a point.
See, Catholics aren't perfect, evil, but you still want a rosary.
That's true. You still want a rosary. Hopefully it's not a crappy rosary that's gonna break.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time you're not doing shit like that should involve your rosary breaking. Like just praying over the beads should not, you know. So I don't know what that guy did with his rosary.
Well, he stood up and it caught on the edge of the table.
So
I guess he was wearing it like a necklace. See, that's where that God was like, I mean, some cultures actually it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
Most white Catholics in America that I know don't do it, but
yeah,
it's probably fine.
That's true. I mean, you do you, you know? It's your rosary.
Yeah.
Your choice.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway. Sorry, that was really long for that. All right, Malia.
Yeah, so the bee vampire,
this is a pretty
very straightforward.
Long one,
and basically they would use the parts of creation that the demonic choirs are an inverse of. So then there's a very long post, which is really neat, and I think you all should go read it, where it goes through each of the choirs and the aspect of creation that they correspond to. One of the things I learned on the Discord this week was that the demonic choirs are an inverse of the 7 days of creation, right?
Makes a lot of sense.
That's why they're in the order that they're in, where darkness is first because it was and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, right? That was the first day. So they all line up to what God did on each of the days, which is super cool. And I'm going to use a tiny moment here to say my own thing, because we talked about unrest a lot last week. I'm thinking about them in terms of like the actual like days of creation. Like unrest, I guess to me just feels like unease. And this isn't a great word for a choir necessarily, but I feel like burnout is like the word that encompasses what I think of more. In law school and in law in general, burnout is a real big concern. Probably in a lot of other professions like nursing and stuff.
Nursing, yeah.
Where you are, it's very taxing, emotionally, intellectually, and there's a lot of pressure put on you, and you're asked to do a lot more than you probably should be asked to do. In law, there's a lot of like reputational concerns that are a really big deal, a lot of other stuff, and just kind of thinking like, because I know I kind of like poked fun at unrest last week, but thinking about it in terms of like burnout, even though that's sort of a funny word for it, I was like, oh no, that is evil.
It is evil. Yeah. Definitely a lot of nursing and medical burnout, especially this past couple years. I don't know, like there's like people are getting kind of jerkier this past like year or two. Like
that sucks.
Patients, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of people that are like nice, but like people are just a lot more entitled and a lot more like just crappy. It kind of sucks, you know? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, burnout does suck. Anyway, next person, Propaganda Pagoda, also has a very long post, so I'm going to recommend y'all take a look at their post. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I'm going to read a small snippet at the beginning of their post. Basically, they're saying, madness is a chaotic perversion of balance and opposed by clarity, knowledge, vision, and predestination. They are imagining a demon of madness being at once easy and difficult to predict. They were saying the difficult part of their binding would be the lure to bring it into the snare using some kind of bait or prod. Again, I'm sorry for not reading the whole thing because it actually is pretty interesting. They go into using an Alcazar to go into like I believe like an addict's mind, which is pretty interesting.
Oh wow.
They basically talk about a lot of different things that are pretty cool to look at. It's just unfortunately kind of long, so sorry.
Yeah. The fourth choir madness was the one I was having a hard time understanding because that's when God creates the sun and the moon and the stars, I think. And I was kind of like, I don't get it. And then Wildbow shows up on Discord and he's like the sun, like clarity and like what Propaganda Pagoda is saying, knowledge, vision, like all these things are associated with like, we use the stars to navigate, to find knowledge, to do all of these things. And it was like, I wouldn't have matched those in my mind, but I think it's really cool. Because madness is a neat choir.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's cool how, meshed those together.
And then last but not least, Violet Faith talks about demons for the 4th, 5th, and 6th choir. So the 4th choir is madness, right? So they say a giant hemispherical astrolabe, because it's a circle, which is great for binding. There's moving parts, so you can react to the madness that's happening. And the astrolabe is a symbol of reason, charting the unknown, right? So makes it ideal for binding the unreasonable. The 5th choir, which is feral. Yes, I'm gonna remember these. Is about hierarchy, social natural order. And it's interesting because we don't like hierarchy much in the modern age, but maybe instead of authority, we can use trust to establish a similar order. A circle of held hands. That's really adorable, and I would not want to be part of that circle. And then a demon of the 6th choir, which is sin, right? They say a painted circle of an innocent black lamb's blood, which nice call out, and I love it.
Nice call out.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your answers. Appreciate it. All right. For our discussion question, I honestly think instead of having a normal discussion question, we're gonna make you guys vote on our thing. Okay? Tell me what I should say. Tell me what I should say about the story. You can make your own comment if you don't like the 6 options I said. I just cannot guarantee for one that I will see it, or that I will add it to the voting thing because I might not see it.
Yeah, if I can figure out on Twitter how to add options, I might, or like create like an other option. But I don't know how to do that on Discord, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm hoping you guys like one of the 6 that we picked anyway. If you don't, We will find out shortly, I guess. This is really random, but because we don't have a discussion question, Malia, I'm going to tell you about a dream I had about you last night.
Oh, God.
I had a dream that you were showing me really proudly, like in your wedding dress that you picked out. And she's not engaged, at least yet, but you're showing me your wedding dress. And I remember I was trying to decide if I should tell you that it was really ugly or just keep my mouth shut. And I'm going to describe to you what it looked like. In case this is like your dream dress. So for one, it was like the shape of one of those old, like really poofy Victorian dresses.
See, that sounds like right up my alley.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, it's not necessarily my first choice, but I think poofy dresses are fine. It also had green and pink polka dots all over it.
Oh, God.
And green and pink flowers all along the bust. It also had a leather vest, a brown leather vest that you had on.
Oh, God.
That was kind of like corseted, but it was like brown leather. And you also had 3 different, very frilly belts with bows on them.
What color were the belts?
I think one was like white, one was like pale pink. Yeah, and they were very frilly and had multiple bows all over them. So it just if that is your dream gown, just know I'm gonna be nodding and smiling. Okay. Because I was like, yeah, this is not great, but
that's hilarious.
Yes. I thought you'd appreciate that. Yeah, it was odd. I was really like agonizing in my dream. Like, should I tell her that this looks really terrible? Or I know this is her wedding. I don't know if I should tell her this. I think I decided to keep my mouth shut ultimately, but yeah, I'm telling you now. So
thanks.
You're welcome. I just thought I'd let you know. It was a weird dream. Anyway,
yeah, I feel like if I had already bought it and it was non-refundable, then maybe don't tell me. But
maybe don't tell you. Just you know, be like,
if I couldn't bring it back, yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. By that description, like, you can be honest. Is that your dream?
No, that sounds horrible.
Okay, thank goodness. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. All right. On that note, I guess if you want, you know what, if you really want to answer a question for us, what is the antithesis of like your dream wedding dress or wedding attire?
Or outfit.
You could do wedding suit. Yeah. So like not what you'd actually like, but like what's like the most ridiculous thing you can think of? Like what's your version of my dream that like you would be having a hard time, like, you know, if your best friend or your sibling or whatever was wearing that, or you'd have to really like bite your tongue to not tell them, you know, it sucked. All right. But otherwise just vote. And on that note, thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a rating and review. To help support our podcast, go to patreon.com/doofmedia. If you'd like to support Wildbow as he continues to write fantastic stories, go to patreon.com/Wildbow.
You can follow the pod on Twitter at Pale Comparison, which is where you can go to vote this week, or send us an email at paleincomparisonpod@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our informal discussion question and share your thoughts on this episode. In addition, if you would like to see all of my predictions laid out, check out our episode description for a link to the prediction tracker.
And just as a reminder, we've got some great podcasts on Doof Media. Pale Reflections had a great episode where Ruben was just in great form.
Sent in a bunch of good clips. Voice sounded a little weird in some. It probably was hard to understand what he meant for some things. But it sounded great. It was amusing. Yeah. I know me and Malia had a lot of fun listening to it, even if a lot of people didn't understand. At least we thought the parts were really funny. So
What was your, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a favorite voice clip from that?
The first one was pretty good. The Star Spangled, what in the Star Spangled Fuck?
Yeah,
But I feel like,
that was pretty good.
yeah. The Mele Kalikimaka at the end was nice. I felt really seen as a Hawaiian. Not a Hawaiian. As a former Hawaiian resident.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, Malia, you've been in Texas too long if you're calling yourself a Hawaiian. We're howly. And that's the extra funny part because those clips sounded howly AF.
Indeed.
And
but Ruben would be a howly too, so that makes sense.
That's very true. But I just imagine any other local listeners from Hawaii listening and being like,
oh god.
probably just cringing. Like, but that's all right. It was pretty funny. Because yeah, Ruben. Anyway, our fun fact for the week, the lighter was actually invented before the match. Not much long. I think it was invented about 10 years before the match. Apparently, the first lighter was produced in 1816 by a German chemist named Johann Wolfgang Dobreiner. Did I say that right, Malia? Dobreiner? You speak German.
Johann Wolfgang Dobreiner.
Dobreiner. Dobreiner's lamp, as it was called, was a highly dangerous cartridge filled with hydrogen and triggered by a platinum catalyst. However, the first successful friction match was invented in 1826, 10 years later, by John Walker, which I can pronounce, an English chemist and druggist from Stockton-on-Tees in County Durham, which I probably pronounced that wrong because the English pronounce things
weird.
Much differently.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, like the Thames. That took me a long time to figure out like how to pronounce that properly because it's pronounced spelled like it should be Thames to my American eyeballs. So it's confusing.
Indeed.
All right. On that note, have a good night. I'm gonna go get some sleep and wake up for my 12-hour shift tomorrow. So,
yay!
Adios.
Bye!
Bye!